Starting in the 1890s through most of the 20th century, a person diagnosed with leprosy was sent to Carville. The former plantation site along the Mississippi River south of Baton Rouge was a federal treatment center.
My grandmother died October 1934.
Ann Harmon Brett had 7 relatives diagnosed with the disease who were all forced to live at Carville.
She was patient 875.
This is where her parents met.
They did not want patients to date or even marry each other. And my dad said, that's not going to happen. And he waited 16 years to marry her.
And newlyweds Johnny and Ann Harmon had 2 children, baby Ann and an older brother.
Children were not allowed, especially babies. So my dad talked to this family in Vacherie, and she said that she would take my brother in, and then a year later I was born, and the same thing happened. So my mother could not touch us for over a year.
Johnny Harmon was a photographer and avid writer. Ann has turned her father's memoirs of Carville into a book she titled The Disease.
Most of us would call it leprosy. You call it the disease. Why is that?
In our home, the word leprosy or leper was never used. It was always called the disease. They never used those words in our house because of the stigma.
While her parents were living at Carville, treatments were discovered that cured them of their disease, and they were eventually released. But the Harmons and their 2 children never lived together.
Why weren't they as parents ever reconnected with you as children and live and be raised by them?
Because they were afraid of us getting the disease. Nobody knows how you get this. It's one of the most mysterious diseases, and they were just really afraid that their children may get it.
In her father's book, Johnny Harmon wrote about a special community that developed among the patients.
Daddy said it was like living in a country club, but the dues were really high. He said everybody has a cross. Some people's crosses are bigger than others. And he said his cross was leprosy. And he said that he lived a better life, a more interesting life when he was a patient here.
There are still about 200 diagnosed cases of leprosy, also known as Hansen's disease, each year in the U.S. But the pioneering treatments developed at Carville have produced a cure, and victims are no longer forced to live in isolation. With the heart of Louisiana, Dave McNamara, Fox 8 Local First.